Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well. I hope you're staying safe and healthy during these trying times. As I mentioned before, I was going to share a video in reference to different ways to wear your hair naturally, especially if you're trying to use less heat while you're at home. So there's 4 different techniques, and my model is Dylan, my son. The first technique will be a twist out. The second one will be just with his natural curl. The third and fourth are different ways to do a braid out. So let's get into it. All right, so as you see, Dylan's already been sectioned off. He's been washed and detangled. I use either this orange comb or a wet brush, which is upside down, but that does say wet. So I used the wet brush particularly on Dylan to detangle him. And then I'm going to show you the products that I'm using as well. The product you just saw was the Diva Curl Super Cream Coconut Curl Styler. That's for define and control. And then the second one that you saw was the Diva Curl Archangel Gel, and that's for define and control as well. Alright, so as you see, I am beginning to section out so that we can start the first technique, which is the twist out. I also wanted to mention that you can cocktail products. The product that I just put in his hair, was Nairobi foam wrap, and then I'm also using the Super Cream Define and Control by Diva Curl. You call that cocktailing. The reason that I do this is because, in my opinion, it gives the finished look more definition and the hair is more saturated. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but sometimes when you see people who wear their natural hair and they have a twist out or, a braid out or whatever, sometimes it tends to look dry. So as you see, I used a lot of that product because, the more product you use, the more definition and the more shine you'll have. So yeah, just a little tip for you guys. With natural hair, in my opinion, you can never use too much product. I've learned that if you use more product, it looks more defined and neater and less frizzy. So with the twist out, you always want to make sure that the 2 strands are equal in size, and you want to make sure that it's clean and neat, so when you actually take the twist out, it looks defined and you can actually see the definition of the twist in your hair. So I'm going to be quiet now and then let you guys just watch, and yeah. Alright, so I am finished with the first technique, which was the 2-strand twist. So as you see, that is the finished look. And just so you know, you don't have to take that out right away. You can rock that style for a couple of days. That's why I said clean parting and equal sections when you're doing the actual twist. So here is the second technique, which I am just going to be using my fingers and Dylan's natural curl with the Archangel Gel. He does not like this gel because it makes his hair crunchy. He prefers the Super Cream over the Archangel Gel. The bottle says it's a no crunch styler, but that is in fact a fib. It does make the hair a little crunchy, so if you don't like crunchy hair, then I wouldn't recommend using this product. As you see, I am very generous with the amount that I'm using. Like I mentioned earlier, let's saturate the hair. It's also beneficial to use your fingers because that causes less tension, and it pulls out less hair. When your hair is wet, it's at its weakest state. So you always want to be careful when you're detangling your hair. When you use any type of tools, make sure you start from your ends and work your way up to your roots. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this technique. Just using your fingers and saturating the hair with whatever product you choose to use when using your natural curl. So I will again be quiet and let you watch. All right, so as you see, I am done applying the Archangel gel and using my fingers to define his natural curl. I absolutely love his curls. He has such pretty hair. So like I said, it does make your hair a little crunchy, but I like the way it makes his hair look. All right, so we are on to the third technique. So as you can see, I use my pig blow dryer to blow his hair out for the braid out techniques. I've seen mostly when people do this technique, they blow it out and then add the product. And this is just so that there's less shrinkage. So it's just your preference. If you want it to be more, if you want there to be more volume, then I would say to just do it with your natural curl. But if you want less shrinkage and for your hair to hang lower, then I would say to use a picked dryer. And for these two techniques, I used the super cream and Nairobi foam wrap on this particular technique that I'm using now. And then for the last technique, I only used the Nairobi foam wrap. And I will have to say that with these two techniques, I did not use as much product as I did in the first technique. So you will actually be able to see what I was talking about as far as saturation and the definition of the texture pattern with the finished look. So with doing the cornrow braid out technique, you want to start off with 3 subsections and just braid all the way down until the end of your hair. But I feel like I forgot to put product in. Yeah, I did. So here we go. I am putting product in now, again using the super cream, and at the end, after I finish the cornrow, I'm going to use the Nairobi foam wrap. With doing any type of cornrows or any type of natural braiding style, whether it be a twist or a cornrow, I like to use the Nairobi. You can put on like a do-rag or use the hair wrapping strips and sit under the dryer or use your handheld dryer. It just gives more of a defined look. And like I said, you don't have to take these styles out right away. You can leave them in for a few days and then take it out. So I'm going to be quiet and let you watch the technique. All right, so as you see, as I started to get towards the end of his hair, it did start to get a little tangled. Um, so in that instance, you want to make sure you detangle and add more product, which is something that I did not do, which is something that I should have done in that instance. Because now when I take the braid out, that particular area, it's definitely not going to be as defined as I would prefer. Some people prefer the wild and kind of frizzy look, but I prefer defined. Also, sometimes when it starts to get dry like that and tangled, that means you need a trim. And my child definitely needs a trim. And he also has lightened hair. So when your hair is light, and it does tend to be a little drier than what we want. So we always want to make sure we're deep conditioning and adding that moisture back into our hair. So again, when that happens, if that happens to you, I would definitely recommend to add more product when you feel like it's dry in a particular area, because when you take out your braid out or your twist out, that area is going to look dry. It's not going to be as defined. So as I've said before, saturation, saturation, saturation. All right, so as you see, this is the finished look for the cornrow. And just a helpful hint, if you decide to wear your protective style for more than one day, you can also use the Nairobi foam wrap to lay down any flybys. It'll give a neater look for you. So after you apply the Nairobi foam wrap, you can put on your silk scarf for a couple of hours before you're leaving out for the day, or even do it at the end of the night when you're going to bed and wake up in the morning, and your curls, or I'm sorry, not your curls, your cornrows will look neater and it'll be a more finished look. All right, so now we are on to the fourth and final technique, which is the single braiding. I will say that I did use two different sizes as far as sectioning. The first section is smaller, and then as you see, the second section that I have parted away is bigger. And that initially was me just to see what result I would come out with once I took them out. But I would recommend that you take into consideration the texture of your hair. If you are on a more finer to thinner texture as far as like the density of your hair, I would definitely recommend you doing medium to larger subsections with your braid out. If you have thicker hair, I would say do medium and maybe a little bit smaller so that you can have more definition. And again, that depends on you. For me personally, I like definition and things to look neater and defined. But if you like the big and wild look, then you could definitely do bigger sections if you have thicker hair. So that's just my recommendation. But yeah, with the braid out technique, it's the same as the 2-strand twist, except you are now using 3 strands. Again, you want to make sure that the sizes of your sections are equal as you can get them, and then just braid all the way down. With these last 2 techniques, I did not braid all the way down. Again, it's your preference. I decided to use my finger to define his natural curl with either the super cream or the foam wrap. So that's about it for the techniques. I again will be quiet so that you can watch and then see how it turns out. All right, so here are our 4 finished techniques. And now I'm going to sit him under the dryer for about 20 minutes for the half of his head that is still damp. Of course, if you have more hair, then you will sit under the dryer for no less than an hour. All right, so now we're going to take the twists out. I used beeswax to give it a more finished look. That's the only thing that I have in the house. I don't have any oil. Sometimes people use oil. Sometimes people don't use anything. I put a quarter size in my hand, and as you see, I'm distributing it evenly through the palm of my hands. And now I'm going to start taking the twist out. If you want the more defined look like I like, then I would say take the twists out the same way that you put them in, and that's with the 2 strands. If you want more of a voluminous look, then I would say after you take out the 2 strands, you can separate them even more, and that will give you more volume. All right, so the twists are out, and this is the finished look, and I absolutely love it. They look so pretty and super defined. This is my favorite of natural styling, especially on his textured hair. It just looks so defined and neat to me. All right, so now on to his natural curl from the Archangel Gel. This is the finished look. There's no frizz. His curls look defined and not dry. And that's about it. I love his curls. All right, so here's the process with me taking the braids out. I did have a little bit of difficulty with just using my fingers, so I did end up using one of my pick combs. I would recommend, if you have difficulty, to use a rat tail comb with a metal end, because that would help reduce any type of frizz. Like I mentioned earlier, because I didn't use as much product, it's not as defined. And also with this different technique, it gives a different texture. It gives more of a wavy look instead of a coiled look. It's not as defined as I would have liked it to be, again, because I didn't use as much product as I should have, but you get the idea of how the outcome will look if you were to use the braiding technique. I hope you enjoyed. God bless you guys.